Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, I'm so glad to have you back. I hope you're doing well. How are you? How are you really? No, I'm asking. Really, how are you? I think it's so important to check in and be able to answer that question. And when fine falls out of our mouth really quickly without any investigation, I think that's something to be mindful of. I'm glad you're here. I really am. I'm so honored that you choose to spend time listening to these conversations. For me, they are so inspiring, so life-giving. The courage that women have in the act of saying yes to themselves. Sometimes they're really easy yeses, like going to Paris. And sometimes they're really heavy, profound yeses, like writing a book about reproduction rights and lots of other heavy topics that today's guest, Stacy Cordova, is in the midst of. And I really love talking to her. I love how multifaceted our conversations are because she is working on this project that is very heavy. And if you heard our podcast episode from mid-October, I'll link it in the show notes. You heard her talk about a book that she's writing about forced sterilizations that happened in California. It's crazy that happened in the state that I am from in the time that I was alive. It's just fascinating. I think I was alive when this happened. I have to go back and listen to the podcast and remember. But anyway, it wasn't in the olden days. But the other thing that I like, besides that she's doing this profound work that is very important, she is also practicing all of these beautiful ways of caring for her soul. She is the founder of the Soul Care Commune, and she provides instruction and opportunities for people to learn more about themselves and how they can care for themselves in a very impactful way. And one of the modalities that she uses is human design. And today she is talking to us about human design, and she read my chart, which means that I gave her the date of my birth, the exact time of my birth, and the location of where I was born. And she used those pieces of information to create a reading of some ways that my life, my personality, my design as a human works. And it was fascinating. So I don't know if you're a quiz or personality test junkie like I am, but I loved this conversation. I loved just really the permission to feel how I feel and to respond how I respond and to process things the way I process things. And even though they might be different from other people that are in my circle, they are the right way for me. And I just love knowing that. So I hope that you gain some insight. I hope you gain some permission. I hope you gain some care for your soul during today's conversation. And without further ado, I welcome back to the podcast, Stacy Cordova. Stacy, I am so excited to have you back. How are you, my friend?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me back. I love that our first conversation, we just talked so much. We didn't even get to what we were going to meant to talk about, which was human design. So thank you for having me back.
Oh my gosh. And I'm so excited. And I know nobody else can see this, but I have the printout that you made for me. And it looks like you work for NASA and you've designed a space shuttle capsule. It's just so cool. And it's full of mystery and intrigue and symbols and numbers and math and all those good things. And I'm so excited to get some insight to what all of this fabulousness means. And I'm just going to turn it over to you because I don't even know where to start.
Well, thank you for that. Actually, I love that description because it felt like that when I was first learning. So what you were looking at and what everyone's hearing is a body graph, a human design body graph, which is like an astrology chart for those that are into astrology. But it's just this really fascinating tool. I always say fascinating when I talk about this because it has blown my mind and really been a piece of my soul care practice that has helped me get into alignment. So I call human design an alignment tool. You know, sometimes we don't realize we're off, but when you are following the design and you're like, oh, there's this idea of not self themes. And when you see those not self themes in your life, you're like, oh, I got to tweak myself. I got to get back on track. So human design has been a powerful, powerful tool for me. So thank you for wanting to hear about it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And again, if someone missed the previous episode, you can go back and listen so you know how Stacy landed on a desire to share and learn more about human design and to enlarge that practice in her own life. But I hear what you're saying already just about being in alignment. And even this morning, I was working with one of my coaches, and she did, it's kind of a meditation, but more of an activation. So it has an energy release thing happening, and it's all very, very new to me. But what I know is how I start that practice is at one energy level, and how I finish, I'm just back to myself. And I had a decision that was weighing on my heart. And for the past couple of days, I just felt this heaviness, and I wasn't sure because the decision was, should I go to Paris for New Year's Eve? I mean, hello. Like, that's not even a question. Like,
yeah,
what?
No brainer.
Right. It is a no brainer. And yet, after I booked my ticket, I was thinking, why am I not doing cartwheels while trying not to spill my champagne right now? This doesn't make any sense. And as I continued to think about it and almost dwell there, I wanted to investigate it, but I was also frustrated in the practice of trying to figure that out. And I just, through this practice, got to breathe in and have it be, it's okay to not do this really good thing because there's something better.
I am so glad you are bringing this up because this is
Yay!
actually so in line with your chart and human design and the words you are using, which I'm going to kind of blow you away. So,
Oh, I'm so excited.
all right. Well, first, let me give a little bit of history of like human design so everyone knows. In the previous podcast, you did talk about it being an ancient tool. And I want to clarify something because human design is actually a very new tool based on ancient modalities. So it actually started in 1987. So just so everyone knows, it's a newer tool. It was a man named Ra Aruhu. His name's Alan Krakauer. He went to the island of Ibiza in Spain, and he had this download that he said called it the 8-day download. And the download was this human design system. And so he took it, he wrote it, he channeled it, and he started to develop it based on that download. So I do want to answer your question, what you were just talking about earlier, but I feel like this is important to share.
No, thank you. And hooray that we can have great ideas that change the lives of millions of people. And it doesn't have to be just something from someone 1,000 years ago that's dead now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and
amazing.
I do, because sometimes when I share this, I'm like, this sounds absolutely wacko.
Sure.
And I
Well, doesn't it all? You
It
know,
does.
when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And there can be things that sound insane to your ears year after year after year. And then one day you hear it and you think, it's like when you're parenting, right? You say something to your kids all the time and there's resistance or whatever. And then their teacher says it one time, or their friend's mom says it one time, and they're like, oh, Mrs. Jones had the best idea today that I should just do what she says when she says it. I'm like, oh, wasn't that a good idea?
That is this genius idea. I don't know who thought of that.
Right? But yes, it's true. When you're ready to hear it, you can hear it.
It's true. It's so true. And so, I grew up in a household where this was, doing these things like astrology were not acceptable and do not touch. And this is the gateway drug into, so many other things. And so I didn't do all of this for a very long time. But it was about when I was 38, and I'm 45 right now. When I was about 38, I bought myself a reading, an astrology reading, and it blew my mind. And I really do think that during that time is when I started to really start to look inward at things, like, oh man, I've got some stuff that I got to clean out. And it's brought me on this whole self-development process. So I'm really grateful for these tools. And so when I heard about human design, and again, it came to me, I don't even know how I learned about it. It was like, I think I read about it somewhere, can't tell you where. And I just was so intrigued and wanted to learn all I could. So when I saw that chart you were talking about earlier, I was like, what is this madness? What is this thing here with all these numbers? And was my job to fix it and like figure it out. So, or not fix it, but really figure it out. So I want to now go back to what you were talking about with you expressing how this beautiful trip to Paris, how you were feeling apprehension and frustration about it. And so in human design, there are these things. If you learn anything in human design, if you know these 3 things, you don't need to know anything else. And that's what's called your type, your strategy, and your authority. So for you, your type is a generator. And so in human design, there are 5 types. If you're a purist, they would say it's 4 types. But there's this new wave coming about. And so they say 5 types, which I'll start from rarest to most common. So you've got your reflector is a type. You have your manifester is a type. You have your projector as a type. You have your generator as a type. And then you have a manifesting generator, which is a hybrid of manifester and generator. And so each of these types has a strategy that goes along with it, with how we should be making decisions. And then based on your own individual chart, you then have a way of making decisions, which is authority. And so I'll start first with one of the keywords you said was feeling frustrated. So the key sign when you are not in alignment with yourself as a generator is you feel frustrated, like 100% frustrated. Projectors feel bitterness. Manifestors feel anger. So it's, and reflectors feel disappointment. So it's really interesting that we all have these little guideposts that tweak us into like, all right, if I'm feeling frustrated, what is off? What do I need to get back so that I am feeling satisfaction?
And that is so interesting because even when I said it to you, I thought, that's a strong word. I don't ever even say I'm frustrated, except for if Amelia and I are having an exchange that I don't want to be having and I'm not able to like stop myself. That's another time I feel frustrated. So it's fascinating that that word is the word that you needed to hear. I love this. And I also just want to say I was raised in a similar household, and I totally honor that, just like you do. We honor that way. And I am saying this because I know my mom's going to listen, even though I tell her you might not want to listen to this one. I honor the way that we were raised, and I honor how huge God is.
Yes.
And I honor that God is always at work around us, and he uses everything and anything he desires to give us the message in a way that we can receive it at the time that we need to receive it. And if it looks like a drawing of a space shuttle, and if it looks like sitting at church on a Sunday morning, and if it looks like walking on a trail in a bamboo forest on the road to Hana, oh my gosh, that was a religious experience. There are just so many ways that we encounter God, and as the infinite creative source of all things fabulous and good and loving, he can use any modality to speak to me, and I'm not going to rob myself of the gift of receiving what he has for me because somebody else decided that that packaging isn't appropriate.
I love that. It's so true. So grateful for the foundation, but also knowing that, yeah, this is God, this is universe, this is all of it speaking to us, and that we're just these divine, beautiful beings that are meant to do powerful things in this world.
100%.
So, I feel you.
Thank you.
So with now knowing that you're not self is frustration for generators out there, everyone out there listening. When you are feeling great, there's this feeling of satisfaction that you just can't even describe. It's like just satisfaction. And so I love, and I see that in your work. I see that in the things you do. Your satisfaction just beams from you. And so I thought I wanted to make sure you knew that when you're using those words. So
I'm so excited. Thank
really
you.
cool. So one of the other important things about human design is knowing your authority. And so authority is actually how we are meant to make decisions. And this one was a really powerful one for me. And you actually have it as well. And it is, we are both, our authority is emotional. And so, I mean,
What a relief.
No, it really was, because again, I feel I go back to saying this all the time. Like in my childhood, I was an emotional little girl. I was crying all the time. I was just, and I'm an emotional adult crying all the time. Like in my yearbook, there are pictures of me crying. That's one of my yearbook pictures, because everyone knew I cried. But, and growing up again is like, I'll give you something to cry about. We like, stop crying. And so I've stuffed that down for a really long time. And so to know that emotions are a part of who I am, I'm like, what? Like, this is nuts. And yes, we are emotional creatures, but there are people who are more so than others. And we are those people. And it's actually our superpower. And now that I've acknowledged that it's my superpower in making decisions, it just has blown my mind. So one of the things about being an emotional authority is we are not meant to make immediate decisions when it comes to big things. Other people have that ability. So people with sacral authority have that power, that superpower, which is beautiful. But we actually should be sitting on it and waiting and going through our wave of emotions before we settle on something. So the fact that you made, talking about this decision to go to Paris, and you may have felt excited when you first, had that thought, but then as you went through your motions, you're like, this doesn't work. And that is a beauty of how we should be making decisions, is riding that wave, seeing it through every step, and then coming to terms with, all right, how do I feel now? What is giving me expansion versus what is giving me contraction? And if it is giving you expansion, then you go for it. You make that decision. But if it is causing you contraction in any way, that's a sign that's like, no, I shouldn't be doing this.
It's so fascinating that you say that, because a part of my seesawing over the past couple of days has been, two things. One, the comment that we said earlier, no brainer. And it's true. My brain has no part of this decision making. I need to use my heart and my emotion for this decision making. And that is actually in alignment for me. So when I ask someone, how do you feel about this? And they answer, well, I think da 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 da. Like, oh, no. I was asking you how you feel. But if their authority is something that you use your brain first, then that makes sense. And then now I can't remember what the other thing I was going to say. It'll come to me.
Because there's so many factors with authority. So like some people can have what's called sacral authority, and that's listening to your gut. And then there's some people who have splenic authority, which that's listening to your instincts, which your gut and your instincts are two different things, which was so like mind-blowing to me when learning this chart. So if for those of you who are interested in looking at your chart, you can go to my website, soulcarecommune.com, and you can create your chart, and then it'll tell you what your authority is.
That was somebody going to soulcarecommune.com right there.
Yes,
you heard it.
That was
Act quickly, people.
And so you can go and you can find your chart there, and it'll tell you, but there's heart authority, heart ego authority, there's mental, environmental authority. There's so many different types of authority. And I think check it out, because I think you'll be blown away when you start to realize, oh, I've been doing this, or this is what I was intuitively wanting to do when I make my decisions.
I remembered the emotional piece. So, and I've said it on the podcast 1,000 times. When I start crying, I know that I'm going to start crying, and I don't want the other person to feel uncomfortable. And I don't want to not continue to speak what's on my heart because I'm crying. So I just tell people, this is how you know I'm not lying. Like, it is so, and it's usually because I'm saying what an amazing, fabulous person you are. And it means like, I'm going to cry right now. You're an amazing, fabulous person. And this is how you know I'm not lying.
I love it. It's beautiful. And I resonate with it because I cry at the good things. I cry at the beautiful things. I cry at the things that make me sad. And, and that's a beautiful thing that we have, that ability to just emote and get it out, and that is a part of our purification process, or our alignment process, which I keep going back to alignment because I know I needed this tool because I was very out of alignment. And there are times where I'm still out of alignment, but I now have a tool that helps me snap back into place. And it's kind of like a spiritual chiropractor, or spiritual alignment, or, I call it my spiritual chiropractor, because I always see it like snapping my spine back into place when I feel like I'm slumped over, or I'm, upset by something. So it's been a powerful, powerful tool.
Oh, so exciting.
So type, strategy, authority. For all those listening, this is just follow these things, and you will I think your decision making process will really be, it just will be ramped up for you. And I don't even know what else to say, because it's just so powerful.
Right. Mainly your decision-making process is ramped up with this information, because instead of berating yourself for not making decisions like the other people around you, you get to identify that your process is valid. It's on the list, and their process is valid. It's on the list, and everyone gets to own their own experience. And when you are owning it and you're informed, you're not just being sassy about, and like, well, this is what's good for me and everyone else can jump in a lake. It's not that. It's, this is what's good for me, and I recognize that about me. And in that recognition, I can recognize that there's another road journey method of decision making that's right for you. And I can respect and celebrate that and actually realize that me staying in my own lane and doing my work how I need to do it allows me to respect you and not try to drive the car for you because I can clearly see the best way to come to the decision.
Yes. And that's what this is all about. Human design is actually called the science of differentiation. So that's what it's called. And it's about, we all have different gifts that we've been given. And it's to help us expand. And it's just about us to help us expand the world and ourselves by understanding that all of us have these different gifts, which I know isn't revolutionary. We all know this, but that is what this is about. And if you look at your chart, you see all these little these black circles, those are called gates. And then you've got these little lines connecting, those are called channels. And those are our different gifts that we have been given and that are like our little superpowers. And so this human design is about helping us operate with ease, knowing that these are our gifts and that these are, those little quirks that we had are actually our powers, our superpowers.
I love this. I'm such a quiz taker. I'm a quiz taker for a personality. Like I don't care what cocktail I am or what Disney character, like those don't appeal to me, but something like the Strengths Finders or DISC or Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, all of those things, because I is self-absorbed on the list. It's not that, it's just like I'm obsessed with learning and realizing that there's a reason for why I'm acting or interfacing in a certain way, and that actually brings me relief.
Okay, so this is in your chart. Okay, and again, it's something you and I have in common, which I just am blown away that you and I have this in common. So we're actually, okay, so now there's another part of human design called your profile. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of human design. And your profile is how people see you. It's how you act in the world. It's your personality. It's like your personality test. And you are what we call a 5-1. And so a 5-1 is called the heretic investigator. Okay, weird language, I know, but it's like we can investigate things until our eyes are popping out. We have this insatiable need to learn and understand ourselves and all those around us. So sometimes it's called the challenge solver, but we just have this need to know. And there's this idea that, again, we don't ever know enough. And so you hit it.
I love it. I learned how to use a wood chipper this week.
Yeah.
I needed to know.
Yes. I went to survival camp. I built my own shelter and learned how to make a friction fire, and learned how to make a trap because I just wanted to know what that is like to survive.
I don't want to know that. I learned which hotel I like to stay at in Paris. That's what I want to know.
I do love that too. But yeah, I have this I'm like, where do these things come from? Like this need to understand and know and dive deep into, things that interest me, and so that it is fascinating. So you have that in you. So yes, you do have this thing in your chart about wanting to know. So
I love it. I love it in relationship too, because I want to know how I'm wired. I mean, I feel like I know, but if you're made to feel wrong about it, then you feel like you actually don't know. So there's that. But I really want to know how other people are wired and so that when I'm communicating to them and with them, I'm mindful of how they hear things.
Yes.
I have a dear friend who introduced me to the Enneagram, and I'm a 2, which is the helper. She's a 9, which is the peacemaker. And I feel like I have a few 9s in my life who have graciously identified themselves. I feel like I know more about the way that they interact with the world than I do about what a 2 does, except for I know that to a 2, having information like that is helpful because that's how we like to interact with the world. We like to have information about people and then act on it. Like, I need to know that Jen Liss, our friend, is obsessed with peanut butter so that I can send her peanut butter and jam bars. And I need to know that she's gluten free so that I can make them in a way that is actually enjoyable. So I crave this information, like you crave information of how to start a fire. I crave information about people so that I can care for them in a way that has the impact that is equal to my motivation for sending them the thing. For example, if I make Jen cookies and they're made with real flour, regular flour, then it's not going to have the same impact. She's actually not going to like me and she's not going to like them. It's not helpful. It's like offering to go to the store for somebody. If you don't know what's on their list, it's actually not helpful. So that's the kind of information that I crave, is so that I can love people out loud.
Yes. And it's so beautiful. Like, okay, this is so cool because especially too that you're talking about the Enneagram and all of these other modalities. So I'm a 1 of the reformer and the enthusiast. So I'm a 1-7.
Yes, you are.
And then I have a little bit of the achiever. I don't know how that came about, but I do have that because I'm always want forward motion. So when I did I've done all the disc, strength finders, and the correlation has been fascinating between my human design. My human design has all of it in there. All of those strengths that I have, like in my Gallup, I'm context, which is again 5-1, understanding, activator, responsibility, positivity, relator. Those are my 5 ones. And it's all in my chart with my channels and my gifts. So it's so fascinating to see how it all comes together. So another thing, and I love that you said this too, so there's this idea of your incarnation cross in human design, which it's nothing you have to do. It's like your mission in life. It's literally how you're the way you are, that just kind of emanates when you are in alignment. And yours is called the left angle cross of prevention. And this cross is all about speaking from a place of love and caution in guiding others to prevent them from following patterns that may get them hurt. That's like a part of your design. Is
that
like
sounds just like me.
Yes, it's like, so that like you are living in your design. And mine is all about uncertainty and how to live through uncertainty and thrive through uncertainty, and really embrace that life is so uncertain. And this year in my life has just been that. It's been such a really tough time for me. And I'm really finding that it's coming out like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm still going to live my journey and do these things that nourish my soul. And so, yeah, learning about my incarnation cross has been fascinating.
I love that, how my incarnation cross hears your owning of uncertainty, and it makes me want to say that is true. And I'd love to remind you of what you can be certain of. And that is that you are fabulous and amazing, and God loves you, and you are not doing this by yourself. And this is how you know I'm not lying. And so it's so funny because, as you were saying, uncertainty, like my prevention got right in there and said, yes, acknowledge that, and don't forget these things, that so you don't get lost there and stuck there. And which is what all of this saying yes to yourself, this mission that I am on. Everyone needs Beecher's mac and cheese, and everyone needs to practice saying yes to themselves. And sometimes both of those things are met in one action. That it's preventing you from a pattern that I've personally witnessed in just saying yes to other people at the detriment of my yes.
Yes. And so you're living your mission, you're living it, it's just so powerful. I mean, yeah, to know that all these things are here and that everyone's are so unique, just blows my mind. So I have another one for you. So
Ooh, I'm ready for it.
Thank you for sharing, though. I appreciate your acknowledging my uncertainty and my gifts too. Thank you.
Yes.
So another one that's really interesting is you have this channel. It's called channel 10 through 57. And it's called perfected form. And it's the channel of perfected form, which is people with this channel have a deep sense of how things should look and how things should be and how things should be put together. And it's really interesting because you see a lot of interior designers and architects and stylists have this channel.
That is so fun.
And this is cool. My husband's an architect. He has this channel.
Oh,
And
I
so
love it.
this is in your design that you probably as a child, you were doing all these things. You were like
It's
putting
true.
it together. Yep. And so, yeah, you have this beautiful channel 10 through 57 as one of your gifts. And so you are living it. You are living your gifts, my friend.
What a relief. Sometimes you leave a conversation with this huge to-do list that you have to change. And it's lovely to be in conversation with someone who says, just keep going. You're doing the right thing. Listen, when you trust that in you, you're going to be good, more than good.
It's so true. And I think that's what made human design so important to me, is how affirming it was. And even some of the things that I'm like, I didn't want to acknowledge, it's like, whoa, this is in my design, and going back to the previous podcast where I was talking about my aunt's forced sterilization and my reproductive rights and all of that. I have a channel, it's called the channel of mating, which for everyone I know that sounds bizarre. It's also called the channel of closeness. But it's this idea of reproduction. That's the whole concept of the channel of mating. And the key word there is intimacy. So this is creating intimate relationships with other people. But there is a part of it that is about reproduction, about creating things. And whether that's human life or that's, creating a home. So when I found that out about my chart, that here I am, before I even learned about human design, I'm working on human reproduction and my aunt's reproductive rights, it blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. It was like, and I'm writing a book about this. Like, how bizarre is that?
And I have chills, and just how confirming that is. And how, even, and you said that I have that.
You do.
As
you
well.
Have that chart. I mean, again, you and I have so many similarities.
Right. It's really fun.
Why we connected so fastly to each other. But you have it as well.
And I love that, as you also said, that it has to do with reproduction, and the definition can expand, because as a person who was unable to birth a baby, and to think, well, wait a minute, that's my right. Like, what's happening? It's in my chart. Like, why isn't that happening? And at the same time, that drive and desire and knowing that God knew, a sustaining mantra, if you will, for that entire time. I tried to have a baby since 1994. Like, this was a long haul with no results that can live in a crib. So, and then even when we decided to transition to international adoption with China for Amelia, we were in the queue for 10 years.
Wow.
It was supposed to be 8 to 12 months. So that entire time, living the life I had while I waited for the life I wanted, which has also become a total superpower, I knew in my heart, in my being, in my soul, that God knows what I desire, and he's not mean.
No.
And I love that that's even, I was supposed to desire that, and I was supposed to have it. And although I only knew one way to get it at the time that I started, God knows, and he's not mean. And anybody who has seen Amelia and I together, I can't imagine any other child at any other moment in my life besides her and besides now.
It's really cool. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And yeah, it's not just about, having, birth, pregnancy. This is about I'll just give you the definitions. Is has a powerful, attractive energy that elicits closeness and intimacy, must follow sacral responses and slowly build these foundations before committing in partnerships. I mean, you built such a solid foundation before Amelia came to make this beautiful life for Amelia. So yeah, it's like, this is what having this channel of closeness is.
I love that. And I love even that language for the collaborators that I connect with on my trips and other, people that I'm doing things with here and collaborations that I'm inviting in to do stuff at the house. And that's how I'm built. It's not just my good idea. It's what I'm supposed to do.
It's really cool. I mean, it says you attract partners and creative partners very easily.
Yes, I do. I totally received that. Oh my gosh. I have to. So how do I get all of these words? Because I have not been making notes. I thought I'm just going to listen to the podcast and I'll take notes then.
Typically in one of my readings, what I do is I do a beautiful write-up of you. So I talk about it with you, you could record the meeting, and then I send you a write-up so that you have it to go back and reference and see, and then honor yourself. I also put together, when you're like what they call your not self themes, which is when you're not in alignment, and then some mantras to help you get back into alignment.
Ooh, so I love that.
Yeah. So I'll send that over to you because it's just such a powerful tool. And I only want to share what works for me. And if it doesn't work for you, cool. If it doesn't resonate, more power to you. But it's resonated for me and I want to share it. So.
Right. And, just to encourage people, if this resonates with you, yay. If not, please find something that does.
Yes.
Because I want you to be as excited as I am right now about something that is whatever it is for you. And I didn't intend to close it down if you had anything else to add.
There's so much, but this takes a lifetime to learn. So no, I do have nothing else, but if you want to know more, I am happy to answer any questions for you.
Oh my gosh. I love this and I'm totally obsessed and I can't wait for my write-up and I have so many questions for you. And one question though, before you go, you mentioned soulcarecommune.com and we'll link all of that in the show notes as well. But are there any books that you read or anything that's a good introductory, or does that also depend on what your type and strategy, like what your chart actually says about you?
So the book that I did read was the Human Design book. I read that. That was the book by Ra that he wrote with Linda Manel. That's like the book of human design. So it has very interesting wording. And that was what I first started to get into and wrote and started reading. And then I just started taking courses and classes and then just doing my own deep diving. So that I recommend the book of Science of Differentiation by Ra Uru and Linda Manel. That is a very helpful one. And I can send that to you so you can add it to your links.
Thank you. That'll be wonderful. Oh my gosh, Stace. How does time fly so fast when we're chatting?
It really does. I'm like, what? We just started.
I know. It's unbelievable. Thank you so much for this time. Thank you for sharing what you're learning, what you continue to learn, and how that is turning into beautiful work, even about really painful and uncomfortable topics that absolutely must come to light, because you talking about them is not what made them terrible. And you talking about them is not what made them uncomfortable. And so I applaud you and send you all the love needed to keep going, because your work is no joke. And it's not as well received as come have Friendsgiving in my barn, or come eat my chocolate chip cookies, or come to Paris. Like, I'm an easy yes. And the people that are impacted negatively and positively by your work it's so meaningful and it's so necessary and it's so valuable. And there's not a lot of confetti and champagne popping involved. And I just want to recognize that.
Thank you.
I want to say that I'm very happy that you're in your lane and I'm in mine. But I also want to acknowledge that it's really big work. And I'm incredibly proud of you and respect your amazing devotion to this message. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. And I need your work because your work helps me to do more of this. Like I need that positivity and that amazing beauty that really inspires me. So thank you for acknowledging my work. And I need your work as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And the champagne is chilling whenever you need it.
I'm ready.
Perfect. Thank you, my friend. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.